All right. Welcome, beautiful souls, to another episode of the Faith, Fitness, Joy podcast. I am your host, coach, and healer, Rochelle Renee. As always, I have a great episode in store for you today. But before we dive in, click that like, subscribe, and share button. It really helps a lot if you do that. And also, if you get value from this podcast, please consider supporting it at the link in the description or in the comments on the Facebook Live if you're catching it live. All right, so without further ado, let's get into today's episode. So today I am giving you all everything that you need in order to get started with healthy eating. And because summer is nearly here, and I know that that means for a lot of folks wanting to eat healthier, maybe shedding some pounds, feeling a little bit lighter is kind of top of mind at this time of year for a lot of folks. And so the keys to starting to eat healthy, which I'm going to be diving into here today on the podcast episode, are first, understanding the basics of healthy eating. Second, it's a process of small changes over time. So setting smaller goals as you go is going to help you a lot. Number three is plan and prepare your meals weekly. Four, practice mindful eating. And five, stay informed and flexible. So I suppose you could say that one of the benefits of being obsessed with being skinny for a large part of my life is that it has made me incredibly disciplined. Like I said before, it takes a lot of control to restrict yourself all day, every day, or to really control what you're eating on a day-to-day basis, especially consistently over time. And I have done some crazy and, in hindsight, foolish, very foolish dieting approaches in my life. I have in my teen years, I would avoid like eating as long as I possibly could. I would eat like one small meal in the middle of the day every day, and that was like it. Sometimes I would try to not eat at all. As I got older, and I continued like diet after workout program, after supplement or diet pill. I did everything from low fat to low carb to multiple workouts a day to things as crazy as trying to live on 500 calories a day. Again, I was obsessed with being skinny, so much so that I was willing to suffer to such extremes as all of this. Now, this taught me a few different things, and one of them is that when you want something bad enough, you will take drastic measures to achieve it. Two, I am very, very disciplined when I am determined to achieve something, as most of us can be. And three, none of the above are sustainable, nor are they good for you. So all of these different crazy diets I mentioned, and a lot of these crazy diets that are still out there that a lot of people are still trying to do, they're not sustainable. And frankly, they're not good for you. And actually, they can actually really just destroy your metabolism in the process of doing them. And this last one is really important. I know since I've kind of been obsessed with this for the majority of my life, I'm very well versed in all of the different research and information out there because I've been reading about it my whole life. And I know a lot of the research for women in particular talks about how these types of crazy dieting can be particularly detrimental on the female metabolism because of what it does with the various hormones in women in particular. It just has a different impact on us than, say, men, with some of those hormones involved, like leptin and ghrelin, which are very much involved in our appetite and our metabolism and processing the food that we eat. So while we may get some success in a short term of doing this, over time, the body is going to basically rebel and it will start to backfire. And I have firsthand experience with this, having done all of these things over the course of my life. So that's why I really emphasize this last point about how these crazy diets and doing these really hyper restrictive things, eliminating entire food groups, and just all this kind of crazy stuff that we want to do in the interest of trying to lose weight, but not just lose weight. We want to lose it quickly. We tend to really want to see results fast. And when it comes to our bodies and when it comes to weight loss, body transformation, overall health and fitness, it takes time. It took time to gain the weight. It's going to take some time to get it off. So, anyway, I just kind of want to hammer that point home because the other thing about this, like with these fad diets and these overly restrictive They're over restrictive on the food, and then they're over um over the top with the intensity or the volume of exercise. Women in particular are notorious for overdoing cardio or solely focusing on cardio. And then, and again, I've done this myself. We get into this mindset of that, we want to burn fat, we want to be thin. So we think we need to do endless amounts of cardio at the highest intensity possible to be slim. And again, this is not doing us any favors, and it actually backfires on the metabolism. And so because of these things, right, like when you think about it, trying to do endless amounts of cardio at a high level of intensity while also hyper restricting yourself in terms of calories and food, it's not sustainable. Your body is going to find a way to rebel against this. It's going to use your mind. It's going to use your hormones. It's going to use all kinds of things to make you stop this. And it's just not realistic or practical either for the long term. And this is why so many people fall into what I call the start-stop cycle of insanity. Because again, it's not sustainable. So you will yourself for so long. And then, like I said, your body will do something. It will come up with a way to get you out of this craziness. And then you kind of fall off the proverbial wagon, and then you feel guilty, and then you stop doing it. Then you're riddled with guilt for some time until you get back to the point of like, man, I really want to get this weight off. And you start to get that motivation or determination again, and then you get back on there and you go out and try to find another program. And this goes on and on and on and on. That's why I call it the start-stop cycle of insanity. It wasn't until about 7 years ago that I finally discovered how to get off of this crazy roller coaster of dieting and obsessing about how I looked and how thin I was and whether I was thin enough and blah, blah, blah. So how did I do that, you might ask? Well, I shifted my focus to feeling better and getting healthy. Part of this was born of me sort of hitting a rock bottom with all of this. Because yes, my weight was kind of the pressing matter in my mind. At least that's what I had kind of equated all of my problems to. But I was also struggling with depression, anxiety, panic attacks, insomnia. I was in adrenal burnout because in addition to doing all these crazy things for weight loss, I was also working full time. I was working long hours. I was in a high demanding, highly stressful job. I'm a single mom. And that can be, it's just a lot that that I was doing on my own. And continue to do a lot of this on my own. And I wasn't managing my stress. So all this stuff was kind of catching up with me. And I got to a point where I just wanted to feel better. So as I started to kind of lean into that and dig into that, the other thing that I did was I got really clear on the deeper reasons why I wanted to do this in the first place. And that I think is really what has kept me going as long as I have. I've continued to do this for 7 years. I've been up and down. I still navigate all of these things. I still practice everything I talk about, but I also still encounter a lot of the things I discuss in this podcast where I have times that I hit a plateau and my weight loss stalls, or I gain weight no matter what it seems like I'm doing. And then then I go back down on the weight. So it's like it's an up and down thing. It's a constant process of being aware and tracking what you're doing, paying attention to what you're doing, making adjustments, being flexible. um so it's just an ongoing kind of process of change and adjustment and adaptability over time. But the reason I've been able to stay consistent with it and stick with it and continue on pursuing what I want to achieve for myself with regard to my health and well-being and also my body transformation is because I got really clear about why I'm doing that and why I'm doing this. And that has been sort of the carrot that has kept me going and gotten me, here I am 7 years later, still doing this and still, doing my best to eat well and work out regularly and drink water and all this and that. Because I have that carrot in front of me and I go back to it often, and I've written it down, and I've done a lot of the things that I, include in some of the programs I have, some of the books I've written, and some of the programs I've created, and these different little components that I have in there that are really designed to help with this. So again, I can't emphasize enough the importance and the value of getting really clear about why you want to do this. And that is deeper than you should have emotional response to your why. It's not, oh, I want to look good in my swimsuit this summer. That's not it. It's deeper than that. And I've talked about that in some of my other episodes as well. So I won't cover it again in this episode, but it is important to note, and it is one of the reasons that I've been able to kind of really succeed with sticking with this long term and establishing a long term healthy lifestyle that I consistently follow. It's not something I just do for a short amount of time. So all that being said, let's get into today's topic, the various topics I mentioned. So the first thing is to understand the basics of healthy eating. A healthy diet is all about balance, variety, and moderation. And so here I'm going to get into the core components of what I believe is a healthy diet, and sort of the way that you should be eating and the types of foods that if you follow these guidelines and these types of foods, you're going to see your body transform over time. So the first one is fresh fruits and vegetables. You want a colorful plate. Eat the rainbow, as I like to say. Fruits and veggies are packed with essential vitamins, minerals, and fiber. They also will help you feel satiated longer, and they help hydrate you, as well as having a cleansing and detoxing effect on the body. So they also, a lot of different fruits and vegetables have some aspect of detoxification to them for your body, whether it's helping you with kind of boosting your metabolism and eliminating more frequently so that you're getting toxins out of your body. And also there's various herbs, fruits, and vegetables that actually do have a detoxifying effect on the body and help your body eliminate parasites and other types of toxins that we build up in our body over time. The second category is whole grains. So choosing whole grains over refined grains, another way of thinking of this is complex over simple carbohydrates. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing all the time, but a good way to go about it is to prioritize complex carbohydrates for your carbohydrate sources over simple carbohydrates, which is things like white bread, or sugars, or things that are basically higher on the glycemic index. So some of the options for this category are things like brown rice, quinoa, whole wheat bread, and oats. A good way to do this is to look for things that have a high fiber content, where protein is the second highest macronutrient on the nutrition label. That's a good sort of general guideline to follow for that. The next category is lean protein. So you want to incorporate a variety of protein sources. This can be beans, nuts, seeds, fish, poultry, and lean meat. So for example, you want to get, when it comes to like the lean meats, you want to aim for the like leanest ground beef or beef cuts that you can find. So my grocery store usually only has like 93% lean, is the leanest beef that you can find at my store. And I think that's probably true for a lot of stores. And then when it comes to something like pork, you want to opt for pork tenderloin or Canadian bacon over some of the other pork cuts, like regular bacon, for example, that tend to have higher fat content. The next category is what I like to call beneficial fats. A lot of times you will hear this referred to as healthy fats as well, but I like the term beneficial fats better, because it's not that other fat sources are necessarily unhealthy or bad, although there certainly are unhealthy fat sources, but these other fat sources, they have a bunch of other nutrients in them aside from just being a source of fat. Like when you look at the macros for or like the nutrient breakdown for something like butter, for example, there's very little other macronutrients. It's predominantly just fat. In contrast, when it comes to something like avocados, you're getting other things with your fat. You're getting protein and you're getting fiber, not to mention all of the minerals and vitamins that are in avocados. So you want to opt for things like avocados, nuts, seeds, and olive oil. And you want to avoid trans fats and excessive saturated fats, when you're, with regard to your eating. Most of the oils that many of us like to use, including myself for many years until I started to learn about this, and a lot of the foods, especially processed foods, contain these types of oils as opposed to the healthier or more beneficial types of oils. So this is things like vegetable oil, which is just soybean oil. It's not really even what you would think of when you hear the word vegetable oil. Canola oil is another one. These are not good for you. They're highly inflammatory, and they really should be avoided. So, like I said, I used these for years until I started to look into like inflammation and inflammatory food sources in our, in our diets and things like that. And that's when I started to learn more about those oils in particular. Um, the basic idea is to really look for fat sources that go through the least amount of processing possible. So when you think of something like olive oil, it's basically just pressed olives. That's like one step, pressed olives, oil comes out. That's how the oil is extracted for the most part. So in contrast, some of these other sources, it goes through a lot in order to become the product that you end up with. And there's also a lot of stuff in there that's not so great. So some suggested oil sources as alternatives to vegetable oil or Crisco or soybean oil are things like where did it go? Avocado oil, olive oil, coconut oil. Those are good alternatives to some of these other more inflammatory sources. And they go through much more minimal processing to extract the oil than some of these other options. And then the last thing is hydration. So we want to drink plenty of water throughout the day, limit sugary drinks, and opt for herbal teas or infused water for a variety if you want. So I like to throw different things in my water. Like there's little tabs you can get, like flavor tabs, that you can flavor your water with if you get bored with just drinking water. You can also sometimes, especially in the summer, I like to make a pitcher of distilled water with like slices of cucumber, slices of lime, and slices of orange in it. And you let that sit in the fridge for a good hour so all of those flavors get extracted into the water. So that's really good. Another one is cucumber and watermelon in the summertime is really good. So there's different ways you can kind of change it up with the water so you're not getting bored. But ideally, you're drinking mainly water and you're really limiting other types of sources of drink, especially those that are higher in calories. A lot of times people don't think about the amount of calories they're drinking. And I think like a standard can of soda, cola, is anywhere between 120 and 150 calories just for a 12-ounce can. You think about these big giant cups of soda people get at, the liquor stores or the quick stops or those kinds of things, and you're talking what? I mean, depending on how many ounces are in those, you could be, I don't even know, quadrupling, quintupling that amount of calories. Another one is those morning coffees. A lot of, I know a lot of folks like a certain coffee shop, and they like to get their morning coffee there. And depending on what you're getting, you could easily be drinking a good 600 calories in your morning coffee. So these are all just things to be mindful of. Opting for water most of the time is going to help a lot, and being aware of how many of these caloric beverages you're drinking so that you're not, kind of overdoing it or going over on your caloric intake just from what you're drinking. So a good way to target it is you want to be aiming for a minimum of 100 ounces of water per day, up to a gallon, depending on your weight. So the second thing we want to talk about when it comes to starting a healthy lifestyle is to start small and set realistic goals. Friends, Rome was not built in a day, and neither will your healthy lifestyle be. We tend to try and change all the things at once, which only sets us up for failure because we get overwhelmed and we're basically trying to change all kinds of different habits and behaviors in one go on a certain date. Like this magic switch goes off, and then it's like we feel like crap when we can't live up to it or we can't maintain it or sustain it. You have to remember you're making internal changes just as much, if not more, as you're making external changes. And this takes a lot of time. And it also involves all kinds of resistance from your mind and other kinds of things that are come up against you that you have to kind of move through and navigate and work through. So this is why it's really helpful to make these smaller incremental changes over time, as opposed to trying to change all of your habits and all of your behaviors at once. Set small, achievable goals. So gradual changes, okay, that's like adding an extra serving of vegetables to your meals every day. Maybe all of your meals every day. That can be like a goal that you set for yourself for the month or the week. Another one could be swapping out a sugary snack for a piece of fruit. Or maybe you do both of those. Maybe that's like one of your, your first goals getting started is, all right, I'm going to make sure I'm having vegetables at every meal, and I'm going to switch out my, that sweet tooth indulgent I have every afternoon for some fruit. So that's an example of making gradual changes. And then when you do that for, let's say you can successfully do that for 3 weeks to a month, then you want to look at adding another change and making and taking it to the next level or another step. Setting weekly goals is another great way to do this. So each week, aim to improve one aspect of your diet. So for example, again, if you're eating a healthy breakfast every day for a week, and you successfully do that all week, then you can move on to another goal the next week. So continuing eating a healthy breakfast in the second week, and then you're going to add, okay, I'm also going to do a healthier lunch. And so, you add that in for your second week. And then third is tracking your progress. So keep a food journal to track your eating habits and your progress. This is also great for keeping track of your workouts if you're doing exercise. This is really going to help you identify patterns in different areas for improvement. The next thing related to starting to eat healthier is planning and preparing your meals. So this is the secret sauce when it comes to starting and maintaining healthy eating. Planning and preparation are essential. Plus, it's going to make your life so much easier day to day when you do this. You might have some resistance to getting yourself started with this. I know I did for a long time, and I still, I have weeks where I don't get to it, and I feel like I pay a price because it's just more chaotic and it's a little bit, I regret it when I don't do it. So meal planning. Set aside time each week to plan your meals for the week. When I miss my weekly meal planning, everything is more chaotic and it's harder to stay on track. And I feel like I'm way more like fly by the seat of my pants, and I just don't like that feeling. So what I like to do, what I would recommend is choose a day every week, preferably the day before you do your weekly grocery shopping. Or if you want to plan it out before you go do your weekly grocery shopping on the same day, just make sure you figure out your plan first in your grocery list. It does not have to be crazy complicated. For example, I focus mainly on planning dinners for the week, since breakfast and lunch kind of tend to be the same things. And I have sort of a smaller list of things I tend to go to for breakfast and lunch. Another thing I do is a lot of times I will use leftover dinners for my lunches. So that's another reason I focus on planning my dinners out for the week, and then I know all the different things I need to get. So that's kind of how I approach it, but you can also approach it with, doing a little bit more in-depth weekly planning. So it's really going to help you a lot if you have a plan for the week. You know what you're going to make on each day of the week, say for dinners, what you're going to have for breakfast and lunch, and have all the different stuff ready to go. So that next thing would be meal preparation. So you want to choose a day that you have time to do some prep for the week ahead with regard to cooking and getting your meals ready. So this is like a combination of cooking and packaging or measuring out your meals and your snacks that you're not going to have time to do during the week. And it's also just, again, it makes it so much easier because you have all of this stuff measured out, boxed up, bagged up, ready to go. All you have to do is grab it out of the fridge or grab it from the pantry if depending on what it is. And it just makes life so much easier. So for example, one of the things I like to do, because my kids love pancakes, especially my youngest, he's like obsessed with them. That's like what he wants for breakfast every day. So what I will do every weekend on Sundays, is make a big batch of protein pancakes because I like my pancakes too. But because I'm always looking to follow this kind of food plan I've outlined in a little bit here, but also in some of my other episodes. Um, protein is really important. So I always make protein pancakes. That way I'm getting more protein with my carbohydrates. And the kids love them and they don't notice them. They're really good. It's really not, I don't know. To me, the benefit is just too great and there's no trade-off in flavor as far as I'm concerned or texture. So the protein pancakes is kind of our Sunday thing, and I will always make like a big batch of them. So enough for the kids and I to have breakfast that morning, and then enough to have refrigerated or frozen for the week. That way, especially during the school year, this makes life so much easier. I just grab, the pancakes out of the fridge or the freezer in the morning, for the kids, just heat them up really quick in the microwave, and then they have their breakfast. And it's good for the kids too, because they have something more sustainable. It's going to keep them satisfied longer during the day at school, in between breakfast and lunch. I do the same thing with Sunday dinners. So, because again, I'm always thinking like, okay, what am I going to use for lunches this week? What am I going to want to, how am I going to kind of plan my Sunday dinner so that I can have a few extra meals over the course of the week from it? So that's kind of how I think and how I approach the weekly planning. So one of the things I do a lot on Sundays is I'll make some sort of a chicken breast dinner on Sunday night because I know I'm going to want to have that extra chicken breast throughout the week, for lunches or for other meals or snacks and different things. So I will make way more than we would eat on, a Sunday dinner. And then that way I have my cooked chicken breast that I can use in salads or sandwiches or whatever throughout the week for lunches. So batch cooking saves a ton of time during the week, and it's also setting you up for success because now you have on plan food that's ready to go, already prepped, already done ahead of time. All you have to do is grab it. The third thing is healthy snacking. So you want to keep healthy snacks like nuts, fruits, and yogurt on hand to avoid the temptation of junk food. And this is where the prep comes in too, because if you have stuff that's pre-bagged and ready to go, it's a lot easier for you to stay on track by just grabbing those snacks that are on plan versus like not having something ready, not having something with you if you're at work or something like that. That vending machine is going to start to look really good, and then you're going to end up wanting to grab the wrong thing. So I highly recommend getting rid of anything that is not on plan in your house. And don't keep anything that's not on plan or that that you really cannot resist in your house. Just set yourself up for success. If it's not there, it's going to be a lot easier for you to like pass it up and not think about it. You're not as likely to go run out and grab a box of whatever it is if it's not in your house and it's late in the evening. We all have these things that, we struggle to avoid. So just don't keep those things in your house. Set yourself up for success. And then the last thing is grocery shopping. So as you do your weekly meal planning, you want to make a grocery list and stick to it so that you don't have to, run out and do your shopping during the week and have things be more hectic. You have everything you need ahead of time and you're all set for the whole week. And then the other tip about this is do not shop hungry. I have learned that lesson the hard way many times. Just make sure you're prepared when you go to the store, that you've eaten and that you know exactly what you're getting and you have your grocery list and you stick to your list and don't get anything that's not on plan. So next, we're going to talk about mindful eating practices because this is also an important component of starting and sticking to a healthier eating. So being mindful of what and how you eat can significantly impact your dietary habits. So listen to your body. Eat when you're hungry and stop when you're satiated. Now, this is important because a lot of times we want to eat to capacity or to fullness, and that's a little bit too far. You don't want to quite be at that point. You want to be to the point where you're satiated. You've eaten enough, you've satisfied your hunger, you don't need any more food at that moment. The other thing is avoiding eating out of boredom or stress. as you get more consistent with eating the foods outlined here and ensuring that you're staying hydrated, you will get better at distinguishing hunger from thirst or stress or boredom. One tip I have for you for the evenings in particular, because I know this is when most of us tend to want to munch out of boredom, is grab fruits or veggies or a protein source, depending, and whenever you're feeling hungry, especially in the evening. Now, if you go to grab that bag of carrots or that apple in the evening and you suddenly don't really feel like eating it, then you're not hungry. You're most likely bored. And you're just, looking for a way to fill that void. So if that's the case, skip it. You don't really want anything. You're not really hungry. But if you are really hungry, and then, grab the bag of carrots, grab the bag of celery sticks, eat the apple, eat a piece of fruit, or make yourself a protein shake or like a protein mug cake or something like that. That way at least you're not just, you're able to kind of satisfy maybe your craving or whatever it might be in the evening, but you're also getting your protein, you're getting something healthy. A second tip with regard to this is to savor your food. So take the time to enjoy your meals, chew slowly, appreciate the flavors and textures, take your time. And along those lines, avoid distractions. Try to eat without things like the TV on, looking at your phone, or trying to work and multitask while you're eating. Take a few minutes, sit down and eat your meal or your snack. This helps you to stay present and aware of your eating. So number 5, when it comes to, strategies for starting and sticking to a healthy lifestyle or healthy eating, is to stay informed and flexible. So staying informed about nutrition is going to help you make better choices. So this involves educating yourself. Like I said, I've been studying this most of my life. If there's a book about some type of diet or nutrition or how to improve your health through food or different types of exercise, I have so many of them. I read them. I scroll through, like, I look stuff like this up all the time. It's just something I'm highly interested in, and I am always educating myself about it. So I would encourage you to do the same. Read up on nutrition and healthy eating from various credible sources. It really does make a difference when you're knowledgeable. It's going to help you make more informed choices. You're also going to start to think differently. Like I said, I've been doing a lot of research recently on processed foods and a lot of the things that we tend to eat, and inflammation, and how we get, inflamed, or inflammation in our body from different things that we're eating. There's a lot of stuff that is not good for us in the food supply, especially that stuff that's in the middle of the store. And the more I look into it, the less I want any of that that stuff, even though I know it's yummy and there's a lot of that stuff that I grew up eating and snacking on, a lot of us love, but it's not good for us. So as you start to increase your awareness of that and learn more about it, it's going to make those things less desirable. And I don't know, for me, I start to get more hungry to know more and more and more about the different benefits of different thing, and food really can be medicine. There's God knew what he was doing when he created a lot of these plants and fruits and vegetables that are available to us. They are also medicine, they are also healing, they also are, there's just so many benefits to them. So unfortunately, a lot of that stuff that comes in the box on the shelf in the middle of the store does not offer anywhere near the same benefits as the things God put here for us. So I digress. So I will move on to the next thing, which is about being flexible. Allow yourself some flexibility when it comes to all of this. It is okay to indulge occasionally. You just don't want it to be a regular habit. You don't want to go overboard. And that's why it's so important to be consistent with all of this and practice this regularly. I have a lot of different tips and suggestions for how you can do this and still enjoy things you love. One of the things, this is actually how I got so into cooking, because I've always been on some kind of diet. So I've always been looking at cooking differently and how I can find ways to make foods that I like, but still be on plan with whatever I'm following. And there's the beauty is there's so many ways you can do this. You can still enjoy all the things you love, especially if you make your own food and cook at home. Because then you have control over what's going into everything. You have control over the ingredients, and you can find ways to make all of the foods that you love in a much healthier, lighter way. And actually I've in the process of final stages of getting a book published that I have some recipes in there that are going to help with that I'm really excited to get out. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But also check out some of my podcast episodes that I've done around this, because I've shared a lot of great tips for cooking and recipes. And then last but not least is just stick with it. There is going to be setbacks. You're going to have off days. You're going to have times where you just cannot resist that donut or ice cream cone, whatever it is. It's okay. You're human. It's life. It's meant to be lived and enjoyed. And there's going to be times that that's going to happen, and it's okay. And when you're consistent with doing this, all of the things that I've outlined here, it's not going to ruin your progress. But what happens is when we do this, especially if you're like me, where you've got, 30 plus years of being on some kind of diet, and you get into that diet mindset, then we also get into this kind of all or nothing thinking, where it's like, oh God, I had that ice cream cone. I shouldn't have eaten that ice cream cone. I've ruined my whole day. Well, I might as well just go get a pizza for dinner since I screwed up already today. And then, later on, you're going to eat some other thing that you shouldn't eat in the evening, because you've decided that you've completely ruined all your progress by eating that cookie or having the ice cream cone or the donut in the break room or whatever. And this could not be further than the truth. That single indulgence is not going to derail you completely. Again, especially when you're following this consistently, and coupling a lot of this with exercise as well. However, when we get in this all or nothing thinking, and we spiral down into having the pizza for dinner and then having the ice cream after dinner while we're watching TV, and depending on how long we spiral, that can quickly turn into the rest of the week that we're off plan. And then that can turn into the rest of the month. And the next thing you know, you've completely gone off and you're back at square one. And you've kind of undone all this hard work. So instead, when you encounter these setbacks or slip ups, dust yourself off, get back on track with your next meal, and just keep it moving, keep going. It's okay. That is far better to have one slip up and one indulgence in one day than it is to go off track the whole day, or days on end or weeks on end. So that is all that I have to outline for you today. Just remember, friends, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. It's a lifestyle. You are creating a healthy lifestyle. It's a way of life now. This is how you live. This is how you eat all the time. That's what you're building here. So be patient with yourself and celebrate your progress, no matter how small. Celebrate every victory. Celebrate that first day that you stayed on plan. Celebrate your first week that you stayed on plan. Celebrate your first 30 days and keep going. Every healthy choice that you make is going to bring you one step closer to a healthier, happier you. So as always, thank you so much for tuning in today. If you find this helpful, do please consider leaving a tip or making a contribution at the link in the description or in the comments on the Facebook Live. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share. And last but not least, I want to mention that I also have just released my 6-week slim down at an incredible price. It's crazy. I can't even believe I'm offering it at this price because it's so crazy. I'm offering it for $97. You're going to get access to everything you need upon purchase. So that's going to include training videos. It's going to include the training app where you're going to be able to get your workouts. It's going to have a food plan, your food guidelines, so even more in-depth guidelines than what I've covered here to really help you stay on track, recipes, weekly meal plans, and everything you need to set up your mindset for success, and also to create a mindset that's working for you as you work towards your goals. So I'm also going to have the link for that in the comments here on the Facebook Live and also in the episode description. So grab that, get in on that. It's going to give you everything you need to get started, to really get going with this. You'll have a good 6 weeks under your belt by the time you're done, and it's going to give you everything you need to keep doing this long term and establishing a healthy lifestyle for yourself. So, with that, I'm going to wish you all a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you in the next episode of Faith, Fitness, Joy.